Hello again guys, this is Landro off of the Wildhammer EU server, bringing you the Warmaster Blackhorn encounter on 10player normal with the guild Who Dares Wins, and it will be from an Atonement Disc Priest perspective. This fight is really enjoyable. It is my favourite fight without question in the whole of Dragon Soul. I really enjoy the mechanics. I like the predictable raid-wide damage, I like the semi-predictable spikes of damage. I like the fact that there will be unpredictable spikes of damage that don't necessarily one-shot people, like some of the other bosses. And I just like the way that the whole raid has different responsibilities, whilst at the same time you are all responsible for certain things. So it gives everybody within the raid their own little bit of responsibility, and what that means is when you defeat him, you will do it as a guild. It's not down to one or two people, it's down to everybody getting everything right. So it's really enjoyable. There are lots of mechanics on the first phase that make healing enjoyable, because they all do different types of damage. Some of it's spot damage on individual people, some of it will be damage on a pair of people, and some of it will be raid-wide AoE damage. And through the entire duration, the tanks will be taking steady damage. So you keep shielding the tank as often as possible, or both tanks as often as possible. You prayer of healing when Twilight Onslaught hits. You prayer of mending as often as possible, particularly around the melee group. So you hit it on the tanks and it will bounce around the melee. You move out of the blade rushes, which are the red visualizations you see on the deck of the Skyfire, which the elites do. So you move out of that, so it's just sidestep that. And then the other thing that you will need to do in terms of the mechanics of the fight is, as a pair, you are responsible for a certain quadrant of the deck of the Skyfire, and what you need to do is, if you see the little visualization of the smaller Twilight Onslaught missile, you as a pair need to move into it if it's in your quadrant, and it means that it's moderate damage. It's between two of you, it's split quite it's a small amount. If one of you takes it, it is in danger of one-shotting you if you are not at 100%. So that's the main thing to remember as a healer in this fight, is to keep the raid topped up. It takes us back to Wrath of the Lich King days, when you need to ensure everybody is at 100% HP, because there are so many mechanics that are that can come out of the blue and take somebody out if they're not at 100%. So that's the general idea of this. The DPS have a slightly different role. I'll quickly skim over what they do, as well as the things that I've just mentioned from a healer's perspective, i.e. moving out of the relevant things, moving into the relevant things, which is a different mechanic. They also need to take care of the sappers ASAP, and they need to deal with both sets of ads. There are the ones that are on the deck, which are normally meleeed down, and they are tanked close together so that they can be cleaved down. And there are the drakes, which are taken care of by the ranged, which come onto the side of the deck. And as you can see, there's one just landing now at the top right of my screen, and the range will take those out. So as long as you do everything right in the first phase, you should be okay. We had a death because, as you see, Ram died a little bit earlier. We had a really bad night's raiding. Lots of people were really tired and weren't at their A game. We tried to do more chuck on heroic earlier on, and we all got a little bit disillusioned. Our usual second tank wasn't available, so we had to take a replacement. So Archimedes came in, and he'd done a fantastic job throughout the raid, but unfortunately his gear isn't that good. He's got average 378, and he's got a few DPS pieces, so we couldn't actually heal him through the first boss on heroic. So we just went through normal, decided to get a little bit of gear, and it went alright. He done a great job. So phase 2 starts, and the start of phase 2, the first 2 or 3 minutes of this phase is the danger time. It's probably the most likely time you'll wipe. Because what you do is you've got Warmaster Blackhorn, who will do his usual moves, which I will go through momentarily, but you also have the Drake, which will keep dropping Twilight Flames throughout the deck that you need to move out of ASAP. And almost always it seemed to land on me this week, which is really annoying. But it's quite straightforward. You just stop whatever you're doing, even if you're in the middle of a cast, even if you're in the middle of an amazing 5-second cast, which is just about to heal everybody in the raid. You got to move, because you'll die if you don't. And you just move to a safe location. But the one thing you have to keep in mind is you want to keep within an optimum distance of Warmaster Blackhorn, which I recommend is around about 15 yards. And the reasons you want to do that are, firstly, he will do a move called Disrupting Roar. So you don't want to be so close to him that you get hit by that, because what that will do is interrupt your cast, and it will, as you know, anybody who PvPs, if you get interrupted, you're then locked out of that school for a predetermined amount of time, so you do not want to get hit by Disrupting Roar. So you want to be far enough away from Warmaster that you're not hit by that. You want to move out of the AoEs on the floor, and then the final move that he does, which can be game breaking, is Shockwave. And that comes out, he will face a certain direction and he will yell that he's casting it, so you get plenty of time to move. But it will come out in a cone, so the further you are away from Warmaster Blackthorn, the farther the distance you will have to move to get out of the AoE, to get out of the Shockwave. So you want to be close enough to minimise the distance you have to move from Shockwave, but far enough not to get hit by Disrupting Roar. And I found 15 yards to be the optimum amount. Once the Drake's gone from phase 2, it's bread and butter. It's basically, you've basically got the kill. As a Disc Priest, as Atonement, you're ninjaing everybody's heals, and the other healers will be doing their nothing. They'll get so frustrated because your top meters, I'll get 22k heals per second on this encounter, and that's with this week we had 2 other healers. Normally we will 2-healer this, Holy Paladin, Disc Priest, but we had Draxi stayed in a Holy Spec. As one of those things, we should have been switching specs backwards and forwards. I forgot to switch to Holy for the next fight, which I will show in the upcoming video. So I actually tried to do Spine of Deathwing as a Disc Priest, and it was a complete fail. So the second video, I will switch to Holy and show you the Holy Priest point of view of Spine of Deathwing.